fine.
The chaos.
Totally
Hey
my life.
everyone,
Hi.
welcome to Book Witches with a B. We are in fact both in the same place. However, the universe has decided to remind us not to take each other for granted, and Snow has kept
Actually,
us apart.
it was an elaborate prank. She never moved back. She is still in Jersey.
No, absolutely not. All right,
Fine.
so welcome, folks, and
Yes.
welcome to our 5th episode of season 3.
Look at
Ow.
us.
I know, go
Look
Book
at us
Witches.
go. I just remembered what we're going to be covering. I'm so excited.
Yes, we have
I remembered where we left off.
lot to cover. And it should come as a surprise to no one that we will also be leaving this episode off on an incredible cliffhanger.
I don't know where we're going to leave off at, but I'm excited about it.
So this is also
I'm
going to
stoked.
be a little bit of a lengthy chapter recap, so I am going to request both you and I have notes telling me to not discuss things until deep dive. To not discuss things until
It's
deep
so
dive.
hard. I'm actually going to take my phone out to take notes so I'll remember, because that's usually why I say them then. I will take notes as we go through so I remember to say them.
Amazing. So we left off last chapter with Feyre walking around the Weaver of the Woods cottage while she's singing her super creepy song, and she finds the ring that she's supposed to take and puts it in her pocket, and as she does that, the Weaver stops singing. Feyre freezes, hoping that the Weaver was simply pausing between songs. However, the spinning wheel slows with each step that Feyre takes back towards the door, and just as she reaches the door handle and turns to grab it, it disappears. The Weaver knows that someone's there. And then I have a note to read because we didn't get the full description of the Weaver last time, but boy did we get it this time.
No.
Above her young, supple body, beneath her black, beautiful hair, her skin was gray, wrinkled and sagging and dry, and where eyes should have gleamed instead lay rotting black pits. Her lips had withered to nothing but deep dark lines around a hole full of jagged stumps of teeth, like she had gnawed on too many bones. Ah.
I hate it so
I
much.
say again, terrifying. Also, trigger warning for very gross and terrifying things for this chapter.
Incredibly, yes.
If you
Yeah.
are squeamish around gore, I would suggest, just fast forwarding a minute or make it a
Yeah.
minute and a half. Just fast forward a little bit. If we're still in the Weaver's cottage, keep fast forwarding. The Weaver asks what Feyre is, as she's desperately trying to find a way out, but every window is locked, and Feyre forgets for a moment that she's no longer weak and mortal and helpless, but then remembers that she's a wolf, and she bites when cornered. Hello, Middengard worm, right? Am I right?
Ooh.
Feyre throws a burning candle against a wall of woven thread, thinking for a moment that she's setting the souls free within, and everything catches on fire. The Weaver runs toward the fire and the woven thread, soundlessly screaming as Feyre runs for the fireplace and the chimney. This is where I wrote trigger warning. Feyre gets caught a couple of times in the chimney as it's a tight fit, and she realizes suddenly that the chimney is lined with oil and smells really bad, like cooked fat. The Weaver sticks her hand up the chimney, and Feyre goes into a blind panic and starts shutting down until a voice in her head, which is actually her own, tells her to stop, breathe, and think. She's survived the worm and Amarantha, and she's been granted powers from each High Lord. Feyre ends up uh, essentially punching a brick out of the chimney and hurls it as hard as she can down onto the Weaver's head. And she, by sheer strength and will, gets herself free, climbing up onto the thatched roof, which, gag, is not actually thatched but made of hair, which is clinging to her body because she's coated with fat from the chimney. Huh. Feyre hears the front door bang
Disgusting.
open. Yeah. as the weaver screams, "Where are you?" at the woods, but Feyre has climbed onto a tree from the roof and is leaping away to safety from branch to branch. As she's fleeing, Feyre is wondering very angrily where the heck Rhysand is, and lo and behold, he's casually lounging on a branch somewhere far from the weaver's cottage. No discussions yet. Feyre is understandably livid and is about to tear him a new one, but he winnows them to Valaris to the House of Wind and flies them straight into a room where Cassian and Amryn are arguing about something. Feyre looks a mess, and Amryn remarks that Feyre smells like barbecue. Cassian asks if Feyre killed the Weaver. As Rhysand chats with the two of them, it finally catches up to her and Feyre vomits all over the floor, but Amryn vanishes in a second, along with all of the gross everything on her body. Feyre then tells them what happened, and she realizes that Rhys didn't interfere because this is a test run for their plan with the Book of Breathings. If she panics in that situation and gets herself killed, she will be of no use at all. Also, Cassian swears out loud when he sees the ring. And if you know, you know.
I don't think I realized that. That is so funny.
So funny. Feyre tells Cassian that she wants to learn how to fight and get stronger. And then we apparently find out that the ring was Rhysand's mother's ring. She gave it to him as a keepsake, and then when he reached maturity, she took it back and gave it to the Weaver to keep safe so that he wouldn't waste it. Rhysand takes Feyre back to the townhouse for a hot bath, and they have a little bit of banter while discussing training her gifts from the High Lords. Rhysand asks Feyre if she can feel her power prowling underneath her skin, and she admits that she can, to which he responds that he's surprised Ianthe hadn't carved her apart to get a look at the power. Feyre questions why he finds Ianthe to be the worst, I'm paraphrasing here, and Rhys turns it into an exercise. If Feyre can get past his mental shields, he will show her why he dislikes her. And then I have read the High Priestess note. So this is just a little bit of world building before Feyre gets into Rhysand's mind and we see why he hates Ianthe so much. He gives us a little tidbit of information. The High Priestesses have burrowed into a few of the courts, dawn, day, and winter mostly. They've entrenched themselves so thoroughly that their spies are everywhere, their followers near fanatic with devotion. And yet, during those 50 years, they escaped. They remained hidden. I would not be surprised if Ianthe sought to establish a foothold in the Spring Court. You mean to tell me they're all black-hearted villains? Feyre asks. No, some yes. Some are compassionate and selfless and wise, but there are some who are merely self-righteous, though those are the ones that always seem the most dangerous to me. And then, trigger warning again for, I guess it's sexual harassment, really.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm putting trigger warnings in the description as well for all of you out there. So then Rhysand ends up showing Feyre the memory. Ianthe is a predator and preys on males who she thinks will grant her power in like a match between them. There's very predatory behavior between her and Rhys has no patience for that, which makes what he did and what Amarantha did to him so much worse. While the memory is playing out, Feyre has been trapped in Rhys's mind, and he reminds her, always remember to leave a way out of someone's mind. As Feyre processes what she's seen, her mind turns to Lucien, poor sweet Lucien baby, who hated Ianthe, and she feels sick to her stomach, as did the rest of us, Feyre. As did the rest of us.
As we did, yes.
Yes. Okay, chapter 22. The next morning, no word has yet arrived from the Summer Court, so Rhys tells Feyre that he's decided to take them to the mortal lands. Let's remember here that Feyre hasn't seen her family since she left to save Tamlin as a human, so that's going to be interesting. Feyre
Mm-hmm.
vaguely wonders what it would be like to go out for a night on Valaris with the inner circle. Apparently, more Cassian and Az had been out all night, the night before. Feyre and Mor discuss the human realm and the role of women, the restrictions and expectations of society and whatnot, and the fact that it's very restrictive towards women. And Mor informs Feyre that some high fae are the same. I wrote in parentheses clearly the Spring Court, but we're going to find out a little bit more about the Court of Nightmares. So, growing up
Mm-hmm.
in the Court of Nightmares, Mor was born stronger than anyone else in her family, including the males. She thought that this would mean that her virginity would not be sold off to the highest, most beneficial bidder in marriage. However, when she turned 17 and bled for the first time, she was seen as a prize mare, despite the fact that her full power came in, and it was so strong that even the mountain around them trembled. Moore leaves off saying she'll finish the story another time, but that she will not be going to the mortal realm with Feyre. We find out then that Cassian helped Moore escape from her fate, whatever it was, despite his lack of rank at the time. Before they leave, Feyre and Moore have a little bonding moment, kind of being like, I went through these horrors and I got out, and it takes time and sometimes I still feel vulnerable, but you learn to start trusting people and asking people for help and being vulnerable again. And it's just a moment of like hope for Feyre, essentially. Cassian and Azriel are joining Rhys and Feyre on their journey while Amryn and Morris stay behind to look after Valaris and plan their inevitable trip to Hybern. As they're preparing to leave, Feyre reflects again on the information she's learned about Ianthe and Rhysand the night before, and her mind wanders to Rhys's hands on her own thighs, wink wink,
Oh,
and how gentle they are despite everything he's been through. And she just like blurts out, I'm flying with Azriel. And Rhysand and Cassian look, quote, as if I had declared that I wanted to parade through Valaris in nothing but my skin.
Azrael is terrifying. It's kind of fair.
It's hilarious. As they winnow to the edge of Prythian, Feyre realizes that they'll be flying through the Spring Court land to get through the wall, and she wonders what Tamlin is doing and whether he's on the western border where they are, and if he'll know that they're flying through. Then Feyre feels the wall. Let me read that because it's cray cray. As a human, it had been nothing but an invisible shield. As a fairy, I couldn't see it, but I could hear it crackling with power, the tang of it coating my tongue. It's abhorrent, isn't it? Azrael said, his low voice nearly swallowed up by the wind. I can see why we were deterred for all these centuries, I admitted. Every heartbeat had us racing closer to that gargantuan, nauseating sense of power. So this is interesting and we'll talk about it more in deep dive, but I really wanted to read that tidbit. So as they're flying through the wall, Farah kind of trips up over like, "Oh, I can see why it deterred you." And then she's like, "No, us, me, I'm one of you too." Kind of calling back to Ianthe being like, "You're one of us now, dear." Hate that female. Anyways, Farah admits that she doesn't really know where she fits in anymore, and Azriel tells her that he's been alive for almost 5.5 centuries, and he's still not sure either. And then they fly through the wall into the mortal lands, her former home. Chapter 23. It had only been a year. I was shocked. It had been a year since she'd gone into the woods to hunt and killed a wolf that was an emissary of the Spring Court. Farah's family home looks lovely and inviting against the snow and winter landscape. They walk up to the house, but Rhys and the others are hidden behind a glamour to make it look like Farah is alone, and I will henceforth be calling Rhysand, Azriel, and Cassian the Bat Boys because it's really hard to say all of their names over and over again.
Fair.
Farah notes that winter is much harsher on the mortal side of the wall and wonders whether things had been different before the wall when magic flowed freely everywhere. The housekeeper, Mrs. Laurent, opens the door, but stops when she sees Farah's face. Though Farah's hood is on, covering her Fae ears, she still has a stillness and a glow that marks her as Fae, or as other. Farah tells the woman that she's there to see her family, but the housekeeper declines to let her in and lets her know that her father is away on business. As Farah realizes that there are no indications of her traveling to the house, no carriage, no horse, no footprints in the snow, Elaine calls out to the housekeeper and her face appears behind Mrs. Laurent's. As Elaine takes in Farah's appearance, she starts to cry, and then a voice from the stairs behind them orders Mrs. Laurent to draw up tea and bring it to the drawing room. It's Nesta. Farah sits in the drawing room and notices that though her family's house is beautiful, it does feel new and untouched compared to Rhys's homes in Valaris. She feels as if she's a wolf or a wraith who has been let into her sister's abode. She's too big for the rooms and this mortal life now, and she was about to bring all of these woes into her sister's lives permanently. Nesta informs Feyre that their father is in Neva or Neva. I think Neva. Probably
Uncertain
like
depends.
Geneva. Probably like Geneva, honestly. I just thought of that.
Probably.
In Neva, one of the largest cities on the continent, trading with merchants and attending a summit about a threat above the wall, and assuming that this is something that Feyre has probably come to warn them about. Elaine cuts in and admits to Feyre that they thought she was dead, but before she can finish her sentence, Feyre pulls back her hood and fully reveals the truth of her new self. She tells them that she did indeed die, and she was reborn. And then Farah tells them everything that's happened since she's last seen them and explains why she's there. She needs to use their family home as a base, as emissary to the human world, to meet with the queens and other high fae from the Night Court to try to figure out what to do about Hybern, essentially. At first, of course, Nesta refuses. She doesn't want them, fae, in her house or near Elaine, and lets slip that Elaine is engaged to a man whose father has devoted his life to hunting down fae. She says, "You're kind," because she's a biatch. Language, sorry. I am so mad at Nesta in this like section of chapters. I just want to slap her so bad. Anyways, back to back to the chapter recap. And Farah asks if she's included in that declaration, and it appears that Nesta might indeed be including her in that declaration. Elaine again speaks up and urges Nesta to rethink her decision. This is more important than just themselves and their family. She says that Feyre gave and gave for years to keep them alive, and they should help her now and help others. Nesta finally agrees, declaring they will send the servants away so that no one will know what is happening. Nesta tells Feyre that Elaine thinks her betrothed is a good man and she loves him like he is. But when pushed, Nesta admits that the Lord's estate looks like a prison and it's clear she doesn't quite approve. She hasn't said anything because the son, Grayson, is kind. Then Nesta asks the obvious question. Feyre died to save Tamlin, and it still didn't end well. Feyre says that Tamlin wanted to keep her caged in, and she could not live like that. And then Feyre asks Nesta if they'd like to meet the Night Court. Chapter 24.
Ooh.
These next two chapters are like relatively short compared to
Mm.
the first three, but so much happens in them that the recap part is like just as long.
That's interesting.
So it takes hours for Elaine to empty the House of Staff using her charm and an extra purse of money for each of them to hasten the process. As soon as the housekeeper leaves, she leaves last, but she promises to not tell anyone what she's seen. A knock sounds on the door, and Farah opens it to find the Bat Boys waiting. They meet in the dining room, the largest space in the house, and Farah notes that the Bat Boys look enormous, wild, rough, and ancient. Farah is once again reminded of Tamlin, how well he'd taken care of her family, even though his own had been brutally murdered by a rival court, reason unknown to Farah still. She still does not know anything about this situation, which, if you know, it's wild. And she realizes, yeah, and she realizes that though he'd been good and he'd given her everything she needed to become herself again and feel safe, he'd really stopped as soon as he'd gotten what he wanted, not really trying to see that what she needed after Amarantha was different. Farah tells the Bat Boys that her father is away at a meeting about the threat above the wall, and Azriel notes that this might be an advantage when trying to contact the queens if they already know of the threat. As they walk to meet the sisters in the dining room, Farah thinks about how young and fragile they seem to her now. She'll be barely into her new immortal lifespan when they pass away from old age. Farah notices that Rhysand has vanished his wings. He's like the image of that like suave, gentlemanly night court sort of thing.
Mhm.
And Azriel has seemingly left his shadows behind as well. Nesta and Elaine stiffen as they take in Azriel and Cassian and their wings, fighting leathers, weapons, warrior persona. Farah introduces her sisters and the Bat Boys, and she notes the pounding of their heartbeats and the taste of fear emanating from her sisters, which is, I get it. I would probably be terrified too, but it's also like a little sad because poor Farah. Like she's part of what they're scared
Yeah.
of.
I mean, I think in my head, which again, not gonna try to interrupt, I would be like, is this actually my sister? At that point. Like, that's a whole thing.
That's fair.
But
Rhysand bows and greets Nesta and Elaine, thanking them for their hospitality, though Farah notices a tightness in his smile. Nesta informs the group that there is dinner ready and they should eat before it gets cold. The Bat Boys are hilariously uncomfortable. It says like Cassian grimaces, Azriel shifts, and like it's just really funny. The feast prepared is of high quality. It sounds delicious. However, it's basically ash in Feyre's mouth because the food in Prythian is just very different. It's basically way better. The Bat Boys seem to be enjoying their meals. She notes how they're like digging in like it's the most delicious thing they've ever tasted. And she's wondering how they can be doing so when Nesta asks if something's wrong with their food. I wrote in parentheses, she's so prickly. Nesta then asks Feyre if she's too good for the normal food now, and Rhysand's fork clanks down onto his plate. Feyre replies, ever the bite when I'm cornered sass monster, I can eat, drink, bleep, and fight just as well as I did before. Better even. I love this moment so much.
It's a very strong moment for her.
It's amazing. Ch- Cassian chokes on his water. Azriel shifts as if to jump in between Feyre and Nesta if he needs to. And Feyre like starts to taste fire in her mouth and starts to like feel it in her veins. But Rhysand kind of like tugs on it and like sends cooling, calming power to her. And then he very politely says that the food is different in Prythian, and if Nesta ever visited, she would understand. Nesta, I'm sorry for the language in this episode, everyone. Nesta
I'm pretty certain we've
continues to
cursed a few
be,
times. It's fine.
yeah. Nesta continues to be a biatch, and Cassian is eating it up. He is like, who is this? It's unclear
So,
whether he's
canon,
viewing
Cassian
her.
loves mean women.
Yes, yeah, he does. It's unclear whether he's like sizing her up as like a enemy equal or as like something else. It's like they really cannot tell right now. He's like new mean person must poke. Um but then Nesta asks what Cassian is looking at, and then I wrote to myself, please read this excerpt, it's so good. So we're going to read it. So Nesta's basically like, what are you looking at? And Cassian's brows rose, little amusement to be found now. Someone who let her youngest sister risk her life every day in the woods while she did nothing. Someone who let a 14-year-old child go out into that forest so close to the wall. My face began heating and I opened my mouth. To say what, I didn't know. Your sister died to save my people. She is willing to do so again to protect you from war. So don't expect me to sit here with my mouth shut while you sneer at her for a choice she did not get to make and insult my people in the process. Snaps for Cassian.
Love him so much.
Me too. I love him. Yeah. What a guy.
Ah, what a dude. He's a
This is
dude.
why he was my favorite.
This really solidified him as my favorite. There's a
Yeah.
scene later, way later, that happens with Az that might rival it, but this is incredible from Cass.
I think I know what you're in book 3.
Yes.
Yes. If you know, you know.
Yes. If you know, you know. It's great. We'll get there. We're gonna
We'll
get
get
there.
there.
We'll do it. Fine.
So Nesta ignores him because she's Nesta, and they continue to argue with Elaine coming to Nesta's aid and admitting her own fault, and Azrael's kind of like attempting to ease the situation. It seems like he's trying to make Elaine less uncomfortable as well. Feyre cuts in and asks to start over, and Nesta's like, fine. And they continue to eat. Elaine asks Azrael if he can truly fly, and they begin to chat. Azrael tells her about the Illyrians, and Elaine kind of shows interest in learning more about the Fae. Finally, Nesta tells Feyre to write a letter to the queens and that she and Elaine will dispatch it the next day, and then she asks if they are going to spend the night. They do end up staying, using 2 bedrooms but 2 beds each. Rhysand informing Feyre that magic beyond the wall is different and he will take no chances. The group takes hours to draft out a letter to the queens. Rhysand writes it for Feyre, and this while the sisters are cleaning up after dinner, and then later on in their room. So their room actually only has 1 bed, and he's staying with Feyre. Cassian and Az are bunking.
One bed.
The room only has 1 bed, but don't worry.
One bed.
Or worry. Rhysand appears a small second bed into the room. This is not the famed 1 bed trope, not yet.
It's my favorite.
I love that trope so much. It's so good.
So good.
So he gets another bed, and they discuss Nesta and Elaine and the drama between Az, Cassian, and more. It's very clear that Feyre has been dying to talk about this with someone. They banter a bit. Yeah. They banter a bit, and Rhysand gives Feyre clothes to sleep in, including some, like, lingerie that he's, like, joking. He's like, "Well, I didn't know what you'd be most comfortable in," and she, like, snatches the clothes up and calls him a pig, but we all know that she thinks it's hilarious. She's a little bit like,
100%.
"Ooh."
She's like, "It's gross, but cute."
Yeah, she's like, "You're such a pig." In her mind. Outwardly, she's appropriately rude.
Yeah, no fair.
Yeah. When she gets back, the room has gotten cozy and warm, including the large bed that Farrah will be sleeping in. She thanks Rhysand for warming the bed for her, and Rhys tells her that Amarantha never once thanked him for doing the same. She tells him that Amarantha didn't suffer nearly enough, and then he changes the subject and tells her it was hard for him to get through dinner, to sit there and make polite and not so polite where Nesta's concerned, chit chat with the two women who did nothing to protect Farah as a mortal child. And Farah admits that there is a part of her that is upset at their treatment of her as well. However, some good did come of it. She never would have gone to Prythian and set everyone free from Amarantha if that hadn't been the case. And then he changes the subject again because he's clearly like, yeah, I still don't care. Informing Feyre that her role at the Night Court includes a wage. Everyone in the inner circle gets paid, and it's a generous amount, so she'll be able to purchase things she needs and wants when they get back to Velaris. He then asks when Feyre's birthday is, and is very quiet when she reveals that it's the winter solstice. They talk about who'd win in a fight, Cassian or Nesta, and Feyre is reminded of when Rhys was the only one who bet on her against the Middengard worm, and then they both agreed that it would be Nesta. Nesta would win.
Yeah, 100%.
Which brings us to chapter 25. The next morning, in the woods of the Mortal Lands, Rhysand and Feyre start training Feyre's powers, starting with fire, water, and air. Fun fact, there's no air in the little pockets between realms that Rhys uses to store things. And we find this out because Feyre's like, why don't you go hide in one of those pockets? And he's like, it doesn't work like that. There's no air. And she has this moment where she's like, maybe you should go anyways, with her eyes. She doesn't say it out loud, but she definitely implies it.
It's implied heavily, yeah.
Farah tells Rhys to leave her alone to practice, and he tells her to give a shout down the bond, and then says some very flirty things. She's like, do you mean like literally shout at my tattoo? And he's like, you could rub it against certain parts of your body if you wanted me to come faster.
In terms of, like, doing things with that hand, I would not have thought about that. Just in general.
Me neither. So she's practicing to no avail. She can't do anything. And Rhysand sends her bread and stew and a note with a pen for her to answer, asking if there's any progress. And then they kind of like write each other notes back and forth. And he's like, look at how beautiful your writing is. And then she sends something back and he stops answering. And Farah is so focused on waiting for a reply that she does not notice anyone behind her until a hand covers her mouth and she's yanked clear off her feet into the air. It's the adder. And that's where we end.
Dun dun dun!
Dun dun dun.
Oh no.
All right. So, like I said, quite another cliffhanger. And a lot to discuss that I made sure we left for the deep dive because
An
I think
actual deep
it'll,
dive, so we don't just describe it.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want an actual deep dive. So let's go into section superlatives, shall we?
Yes.
Drama queen.
Nesta. Always.
It's she,
It's always Nesta.
she makes me
Or
so
Elaine.
mad.
I might do Elaine just because she immediately burst into tears seeing Feyre.
It is
I feel like
immediate. Like she sees
because
Farah and starts sobbing.
it's also not like happy tears. It's
No.
definitely like she's sad that her sister is still alive and
It's
not dead.
well, I think it's like she can tell something's different.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
she's
I mean,
like
very clearly,
scared, upset. She's definitely not happy to see her sister.
I don't think Elaine. True. I'm gonna get on this horse. I hate Nesta. I do, especially in this section.
It's
In this
complicated later,
section,
but right now, yes.
I still I think Nesta gets a lot of shit. Sorry, pardon my French. I
I've
think
already said bitch like twice.
Nesta gets a lot of it from people. When Elaine is also a nightmare, she just wraps it up in pretty bows. I respect Nesta, at least for being honest. even if I
It's
don't like it.
But that's the genius of it. Sarah is such a genius. Like, that is the Elaine
She
effect.
is.
Everyone just does everything that Elaine wants or needs, people, like, trip over themselves to give her. And,
I
like,
hate it deeply.
even out here in the real world, people are like, "Oh," like, the worst people will say about Elaine is like, "Oh, she's boring." And it's like, "No, no, she's actually just as bad as Nesta in different ways."
Yeah, like she was also arguing with Nesta over trying to get new things that she wanted because she just wanted them when they
Exactly.
lived in the cabin. Like
Because she
Nesta's just
wanted pretty
honest.
things. Yeah,
Yeah, which again is fine. Like, and everyone wants nice things. I'm not like telling her that you can't have nice things. Duh. But like, ma'am,
I know. Yeah,
just
no, it's rough.
yeah. So anyhow, but it's the sisters. I don't know which one was more dramatic. They're both pretty dramatic.
I would agree. Um, craziest thing to happen?
Oh, the whole Weaver section,
It's so
all of
gross.
it. I forgot how horrifying it was until I reread it. Like that section, I will skip over during a reread. Like I don't want to.
That's fair.
Like I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't need it.
Yeah, that's fair. I I like to reread the first part where she's like creeping through and the Weaver is like singing creepily and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But
The moment that you have cooked human fat and human hair stuck to the body, I'm
yeah,
good.
that's so gross.
Mm-mm.
Okay, can we have some like honorable mentions? Just like Feyre's
Yeah.
sass.
I think Farrah gets a lot of like hate. These books in general, as people are, will hate on them. It's here nor there.
Mhm.
But like Feyre, including on our own podcast, to be honest, gets a lot of hate for being
Yeah,
boring.
we're looking at you, Frank. May I
Frank.
repeat boiled piece of chicken, Frank?
Which I get it compared to some of if you've read anything else by Sarah J. Maas. I think she's a very different leading character than the other women that she tends to write. Um, but I think Farah's a lot more realistic in the way that she goes about things, and I think she's a lot sassier than people give her credit for.
I
I
think so
think
too.
I think if you read the first three, great. You start seeing her through other people's eyes, you get a slightly different perspective of her, I
Mhm.
think, and I think that's where a lot of it falls apart for people. Um,
That's fair.
because
That's fair.
I don't think a lot of Feyre's sassiness is in her head. She doesn't say a lot of it aloud. So you're not
Yes.
getting a lot of that like inner monologue from her that
Yeah.
you get like when you're seeing it from her perspective,
Yeah, no,
I think.
that's
So
super true. I think that's
she's at
very
least
true.
like nicely seasoned chicken. She might be chicken, but she's nicely seasoned chicken.
She is
She's
nicely
roasted.
seasoned. She's
Yeah, there's not really anything new. I think Cassian is hotter in this section because of that one line.
yes.
That's about it.
Ooh,
He got more hot.
he did.
Still beast, but more hot in this section.
I think Azrael got hotter too, just like how he's like interacting with Elaine is very sweet, which I find
It
attractive.
is. It is very sweet. You are
Yeah.
correct. Yes.
So, maybe, but he's still kind of other though.
There's a coldness to him, definitely.
Mhm.
That like he holds himself away. Him and Nesta are not all that different in their like distant coldness. He's just not as aggressive.
He's quiet.
Yes. He can have those inner thoughts. He just doesn't say them out loud.
He's
Nesta
also,
just
I
says
think,
them.
much more considerate. He's quieter and more considerate, but it's very
Yes.
possible that he has those inner thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fair.
All right. Shall we go to dun 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 Golly's corner?
Colleen's Corner.
I'm gonna eat while you do that.
Oh, please do. Okay, well, I might need a little bit of interaction from you but it's
Okay.
okay. You can eat and interact. So,
All right.
it's fine. I decided that everything in these last couple of episodes have been very heavy and hard, and we're gonna get back into the heavy and hard, but I want to have silly time. So, currently we're gonna have silly time. So I have seen
Woohoo!
this a few times on the internet, and I think it's funny. Um, And it's like if they lived in the real world, things that these characters would like. But I specifically want to talk about what reality TV shows either I think they would watch or that they would participate in, depending on the character.
Amazing.
Because I think it's fun. Um, so I feel like we can start with Feyre. So we can each give an answer, or we can come up with one. Depends. Some of these people I have like a pretty definitive one. Some of them I'm actually not 100% certain on.
I will preface this with I don't watch a lot of reality TV shows, so my answers might not be very accurate.
I also don't watch a crazy amount of reality TV, but I've seen a lot of clips of different shows, so I feel like I have a general vibe of like this person will enjoy this type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm
Okay.
thinking. Feyre, I think, would love The Bachelorette. She loves drama. She loves a love
Yes.
triangle. She loves arguments. Like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, like she would eat that up.
I was gonna say Love is Blind.
Yeah, dating shows. She would
And Too
love
Hot
a
to Handle.
dating.
Yes.
Too Hot to Handle. I think Love Island would send her into a coma. If you've
Oh
ever
my
seen
God,
anything,
yes.
she would just be like, "What are these people doing?" It would like upset her deeply, but she couldn't stop watching. And Rhys
Yes.
would be like off to the side, being like, "This show's so stupid," but he knows everything that's happening the whole
Yeah, oh,
time.
Rhys 100%. He likes to pretend he
The
doesn't love it, but he does.
He's such a drama queen.
Yeah.
Such a drama queen. So Rhys is the other one that we can go to Rhys. I was trying to think of his. I'm thinking something kind of outdoorsy, but he's not an outdoorsy guy, so
I
I
was
don't
thinking
know.
like Real Housewives.
So that would be like his guilty pleasure. Like he
Yeah.
wouldn't tell other people that's what he's watching.
No,
I
but
think he would
Asriel
tell people
knows.
he watches. Yeah, he tells people he watches like Bear Grylls nature documentaries, but in reality, he's just really into like specifically. I don't know. The only episode of the season of the Real Housewives I've seen is the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, so that's the one I'm going to assign to him.
I
So,
I also think that he secretly watches the Great British Bake Off with Nuala and Saradwin.
oh, 100%. That's what I think Elaine watches. That's the one that I
I
think
was
Elaine
gonna
is
say
super
that
into.
too. Like they're gonna
Yeah, is
bond
Great
on
British
that
Baking
later.
Show. Oh, 100%. Yeah, like Reese watches it. Reese is very domestic.
He
He is.
is.
He's got this like very domestic vibe about him. Cassian. I think Cassian would go on Naked and Afraid.
Oh,
I don't even think he would watch it.
yes.
He would go on Naked and
He
Afraid and
absolutely
be
would.
so excited and be a little bit disappointed that he has to wear like clothes sometimes. Like I don't think he would
Yes.
ever make clothes for himself. I think he'd just be like, why can't I just be naked?
Agreed.
And be sad
Hot
that they
take.
blurred him out.
Hot take. I think he'd also love Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Oh, he would know every single detail. He would have a favorite Kardashian. It would be Chloe.
It would be
I
Chloe.
think. It would be Chloe. 100%. I agree. But I think he would love Naked and Afraid. He'd eat that up so fast.
Absolutely. I also think that if Fear Factor still existed, which if it does, mind blown, he
Yes,
would
I
be
I
on
don't
that and also watch it.
oh, he would win.
He would
No
win.
competition. He's like, my childhood sucked. We are basically just the only reason he wouldn't the only reason I think he wouldn't. Oh, we're not quite there yet, but this is mild spoilers, but not necessarily because you don't know the context. If they put him in a dark library, he might lose.
He might. Yes, that's fair.
That's a no context spoiler, but it is. But yes, Fear Factor was the other one that I thought of as well.
Mhm.
Um, Asriel.
Oh,
I don't
one
know.
more for Cassian.
Oh,
He would be on like the Ninja Warrior.
oh, yeah.
And he
You
would
know what I
also
could also
win.
see him? Oh, he would win. You know what I actually could see him doing and being
What?
pretty successful at is actually Love Island.
Oh
He's
my
got
God,
like
yeah.
the build and the attitude to be like, yeah, I totally want to graft on her. I'm not British, clearly. I watched the
I-
British version of this
You're fine.
show. To just be like, I'm gonna go graft on her or whatever they say. I think he would think that's right up his alley. He likes people,
I
he loves
agree.
attention.
Hmm.
Basically, we just think that Cassian loves reality TV
Yeah,
and would
basically
be like,
everything. All of it.
he would be like a fitness influencer, like going on all these shows. He'd love it.
He would love it. Okay, Asriel, have you heard of is it called The Circle?
Yeah,
It,
yes, I have
I
not
think
seen
it's
it.
called The Circle. It's this reality TV show on Netflix where basically like people have to it's like an influencer competition, but like you don't have to be truthful about who you are because you don't actually see anyone that you're interacting with. It's all through an app made for the
Oh,
game.
okay. Yeah, no, he
And
would
I
do well with
think that
that.
Asriel would be like the ringer that they send in to lie about everything, and he would win.
Mhm. I also think he would watch it and critique everyone's lies. Be like, "That's so
He
stupid. Why would
absolutely
anyone
would.
believe that?"
Yeah.
The whole
I
time.
also think that he calls it a guilty pleasure, loves the Great British Bake Off.
Oh, 100%. He eats that up. Partially because I think Elaine likes it, so he's like, "Okay," and, like,
Yeah.
him and the boys all watch it just because
Yeah.
like,
They
what the boys
definitely
do
all
or
watch
whatever.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what they all like whenever they're like trying to bake. This is also I guess spoilery without context, but when they're up at the cabin,
I was gonna say, in the cabin, that's
yeah,
what they watch
they like put on their own Great British Bake Off after the
every
snowball
time.
fight and they use words like fiddly. Oh, it's a bit
Yeah.
fiddly.
No soggy bottoms, but they tell no one. That's their best kept secret. They're like, "I don't care if you get a mate. No one can
No
ever
one
know we do
knows.
this." No one knows the whole time.
Amazing.
Another one that I weirdly think Az would be good at, and I don't know why, but I think I'm trying to think of who he would have to bring with him, and that's who I'm not certain of. But Amazing Race. I think Azrael would be so good at the Amazing Race. Who I want to put with him is Lucian, which is kind of funny because Lucian's like a big emissary type person, but I think them as a duo would be really fun.
I think they would win it if they did it together.
Exactly. Well, because like Az can do the survival stuff, right? Lucian is so good with people. He's
Mhm.
incredible. He's charismatic. He would love it.
Yeah.
Like I think they're both very knowledgeable in terms of like other courts. Because like I think Az is kind of an emissary. He's more of a spy, but I think he's kind of officially an emissary,
Yeah.
secretly a spy.
No, I
Um,
think that's yeah. I just had
yes.
a really funny thought.
Yeah.
You know what Tamlin's obsessed with?
I was trying to think of Tamlin's. What?
90 Day Fiance.
But like he took it literally.
Took it literally.
He's like, oh my gosh, or like Love Is Blind. No,
Yes.
what is Married at First Sight?
Married at First
Married
Sight.
at
Yeah.
First Sight.
Yes.
Into all of those. I also think he'd be really into 19 Kids and Counting as well.
Huh.
The like Tucker family one. I think he'd
Yeah.
be like, wow, the show has really strong values. I really appreciate that.
Yes.
I not to make a critique on, but it's a very you get
Sorry.
it.
Yes, my
He's
huh was the thought of birthing 19 kids. That's absolutely
no, I agree.
terrifying.
I agree. People can live their lives the way that they want to, and if that's where they
Yes.
live,
That is
here nor
not what
there.
I choose, but good for you if you do. Honestly,
Like,
proud of you.
they 19 children is too much, too many.
Can't.
I am. I think my body would die.
Yeah, me
I'm so.
too.
I was not made to do that. Clearly, but anyhow, but yes, I think Tamlin would love all of those kind. 90 Day Fiance is very perfect. Uh, trying to think, who else would we have? I think Ianthe would also love Real Housewives, but like not in a cool way, like in like
Yeah.
a she wants to be one way.
Yes. Like an
Yeah.
aspirations type of thing. Motivational.
And like same with the Kardashians, except she like got like a little too much plastic surgery to or like did her eyebrows look exactly like Kylie Jenner, but she just looks a little plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
what I picture her doing.
Oh, I have another one for Feyre. Have you seen Glow Up? I've seen a lot of Netflix reality TV shows, clearly.
Is that like the like fashion competition
It's
thing
the
or
makeup artist competition.
ooh, okay,
And so
yes.
they have like creative briefs in addition to like glam, like makeup look
Oh,
briefs. So they'll do these like beautiful, intricate pieces of art on themselves or on a model in addition to doing like makeup looks. And I think Feyre would
Ooh,
be
she would
really
be good
into
at that.
that.
Oh, I think she would. You know what? I never thought about that. I bet Feyre is good at makeup. Like, I think she would love like a beauty guru
Yeah.
because she loves that kind of stuff. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Hmm.
It's fair. I think Nesta doesn't watch reality TV, if
I
I'm
was
gonna be
gonna say the
honest.
same.
I don't think she does. If she does, it's only because she's watching it with Elaine.
Yeah,
Like,
like
that's it.
she'll watch the Great British Bake Off with Elaine. She
But
might
she's
watch
like not
Glow Up
happy
with
about it.
Feyre for bonding too, but like it's like this is my duty as a sister and I hate it.
Yes, she's actually reading her book while she's doing it.
Exactly. This is also
Yeah,
spoilers with no context, but Nesta's a spicy girly.
she is a spicy girly.
So
That is correct. I can't think of anyone else that like comes to mind immediately in terms of like things that I can think of. But anywho, I just thought that would be a fun little like break in our very heavy
that was
chunk
nice.
of chapters because I
Thanks,
was like, what can I do? I'm
Colleen.
like, I can't keep talking about sad things. My mom was like, your sections are so depressing.
Depressing.
I was like, maybe I should do something dumb. So I did something dumb.
This
So
is
there
great.
we go.
This was great. I loved it.
Dancing with the Stars. I forgot about Dancing with the Stars. Nesta would watch Dancing with the Stars.
Nesta would watch
That's
Dancing
what
with the
Nesta
Stars.
would watch.
Yes.
And she would be so upset every time the celebrities came on there because she's like, I could dance so much better than them every time.
Yes.
Also, spoiler without context, but it's fine. That doesn't
Got a
matter.
lot of no
That's not like an
context
important
spoilers. It doesn't
spoiler.
mean anything to anyone.
But yeah, please tell us what reality TV shows, and maybe characters we didn't mention. There's like Amryn and some other people. Tell us what you think about them. Let us
Yeah.
know.
Yes. Please do. This was so fun.
There we go.
All right. Okay. I think that so there's a lot of segments that we had when we were doing ACOTAR that are no longer relevant.
Mhm.
Um, I do think that one I want to call back to is it's not this is no longer Beauty and the Beast, but we have
Mhm.
some callbacks to like fairy tale folklore type things
Mhm.
in this section, which I think are really fun.
Mhm.
So we have obviously the Weaver of the Woods. I think we did sort of mention it last episode, but she's essentially the witch in Hansel and Gretel.
Gretel. Yeah, it's a very like, and not in a bad way, but a very obvious like parallel. But like,
Yeah.
so like a realistic version, like it looks like gingerbread, but in reality, it's this terrifying, hair house.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to call back to I guess what did we say it was? It's like inspiration from the real world that we see here. So it's very
Mhm.
common in like fairy tales and folklore and things like that. You warn mortals not to do a bunch of things when they come in contact with fairies. Don't make deals or bargains. Don't eat the food. Don't drink the wine,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
I think it's interesting that here, so we have the opposite of that. Now, Feyre has had the food and the wine in Prythian, right? And
And
she's
one.
turned
Yeah.
Fae, but we found this even before she had turned Fae when she was human and she visited them again, where
Mhm.
the food in the mortal lands tastes like ash in her mouth now. And I
Mhm.
think that that's interesting because it would be really good inspiration in this universe where it's like stories of old and it's just turned into this don't eat the food in Prythian. But what it actually stems from is like these poor mortals who have been freed and thrust out into the mortal lands, and a wall has been put up and magic is cut off. And they know what food tastes like. In theory, we don't know the conditions, but in theory, at least some of them know what the food tastes like in Prythian. And
Mhm.
they come to the Mortal Lands and they're growing their own food and they're doing their own thing, and it tastes like ash in their mouth. And so they don't want to have anything to do with Fae, but somehow that gets
Mhm.
translated through the generations as a warning to not eat the food in
Yeah.
Prythian. I just
Well, I
thought
mean,
that
that's
that was
common with
fun.
a lot of like old wives' tale type things. It's
Hmm.
it's just like warning you not to do like. There's a reason that you don't do those things, even if we may not know I mean, you know, but like it may not be like a direct parallel anymore that you
Yeah,
think of.
it's like
So
playing
yeah,
telephone through generations.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, I never thought about that, but you're not wrong, especially with the food. I think that's a very like you really won't be able to eat mortal food once you've had that wine. We all know why you don't have the wine.
We're all we're all aware.
We're all uncomfortably aware why you don't drink the wine. She drank it so many times,
I
freely and kind of unwillingly.
yeah. And
It's
then
just
kind of going off that again, we don't have a whole lot of information about Mora yet, but her name is the Morrigan, right?
mhm.
And I'm gonna let you take this one because I think you know more about it than I do. But in
The truth
like,
teller thing.
yeah, the truth teller thing, and isn't the Morrigan something in like Viking mythology?
I think it's Irish mythology.
Is it
If I
Irish
could be wrong, I
mythology?
can't remember if it's Viking or mythology. I think it's Irish, but there is this. She's this like very powerful, which is the Morrigan, but this like kind of powerful, like mythical. It's one of the Celtic gods. I think
There
I
we
don't
go.
know all of the details about it, but she's like the Hera of like the Catholic not Catholic. Lord have mercy. Irishes are Catholic, but that's
Celtic?
not what I meant. The like Celtic pagan pantheon. She's incredibly powerful, and you kind of like don't mess with her is the best way that I can like put it. Like it's not like that like you don't
Hmm.
talk about her kind of thing, but like she's definitely not like someone you want to curse
Yeah,
by any means. You definitely
yeah.
want to have a very reverent attitude when you are interacting with her.
Yeah,
So,
which is like super interesting because clearly Sarah J. Maas has taken a lot of inspiration from the real
mhm,
world folklore and mythology. We
mhm.
still don't know, by the way, if you're reading this for the first time right now, in the universe, we still don't really know that much about Moore and her powers and her role and like the bigger picture where she's concerned.
We get like a slight like glimpse, but we don't really understand what that means or like what she means by it. We just it's like a statement that she makes that in theory has no backing
Hmm. In theory, yeah.
that we know of.
We don't really
Like we
know.
don't know. Yeah.
But the reason that I bring her up is because she's talking to Feyre about the mortal realms, and she knew the six mortal queens who forged the treaty. And she's
Mhm.
like, I'll be there when we meet with the new mortal queens, and I want to see
Mhm.
if there's anything of the women I remember still there. And
Mm.
so I just wanted to call out that we don't know a lot about her. We just know that she's incredibly powerful. The entire mountain shook when she came into her power.
Which is cool.
We don't know anything else about her, really.
We also don't know. I also think it's interesting, which it's not uncommon, like in terms of like pagan practices, but that it seems like a lot of at least the night court practices are based around like puberty,
Hmm.
essentially. So like sadly the Illyrian one is clipping the wings, but it seems like at least magic wise, as a female, you kind of come, which doesn't seem to be the same for males, but it seems specifically to be more for the females that like upon your first bleeding or
Yeah.
like coming into your like pubes, like I guess it's like
There's
not really
some
out
sort
of
of like
puberty, but kind of
divinity with womanhood, I guess.
yes, divinity with womanhood that particularly comes with it.
Which makes sense because of the mother and the cauldron and all of that.
Yeah, it's a very like not female based, but like I don't know. There's a lot of like I mean paganism tends to have a lot of female influences, or it can. It depends. Nordic has less, but a lot of pantheons and witchcraft practices have a very large female pantheon presence. And, so I
Yeah.
think it's interesting that it's connected with that as well.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and get into deep dive. I have a couple more notes and then we have a lot to discuss from the chapters as well. Sound good?
Yes.
All right, let's go to deep dive.
Time for a deep dive.
Okay, so I just have this one note, which I think I chuckled to myself when I wrote it. I called it "More alcohol, no problems." Are you ready?
Actually trying to think of what the context of this.
So they're getting ready to go to the mortal lands, and Farah's looking
Mhm.
around her, and Mora's like in her room, they're chatting, and she's like, "Oh, what does one wear in the mortal lands?" Feyre goes, for someone who claimed to have been out drinking and dancing until the mother knew when, she appeared unfairly perky. Cassian and Asriel, grumbling and wincing over breakfast, had looked like they'd been run over by wagons repeatedly. I also
Maybe
wanted to
that's
bring
Moore's
some
power.
levity. Yeah. I also wanted to bring some levity to this discussion because it has been a lot of like really heavy stuff, and I was just like, this is hilarious.
This book is so good, but I forgot. So, like, when we talk about, like, it's Beauty and the Beast until it's not, like, the moment that Feyre goes under that mountain is just a series of really heavy and incredibly dark things
Yeah.
that just keep piling up
Yeah.
for a long time,
A
honestly.
long time. And she actually, at this
Yeah.
point in time, she's like, it's like a breath of air when she gets to Valaris. And she's like to
Yeah.
the point in her healing now where she's like vaguely wondering what it might be like to go out and drink the night and drink and dance the night away with these people who are becoming her friends, who she's
Yeah.
learning to trust and like lean on a little bit.
hmm Which
So
is a
yeah.
big step for her. She's never really had, like, not even like a casual friend, because I would not say
Yeah.
Isaac was a casual friend. She's just not really had friends in like a normal sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then, okay, to bring it back, talking about Moore and her incredible power, I just wanted to read the excerpt where she talks about it because, again, I think her
Oh,
words are very impactful. I was
mhm.
born stronger than anyone in my family, even the males, and I couldn't hide it because they could smell it. The same way you can smell a High Lord's air before he comes to power. The power leaves a mark, an echo. So I just thought that that was interesting that, like, we've only ever heard about it in the context of High Lords, but here's proof that it's any powerful Fae. Other Fae can, like, smell the power coming off of them, which is an interesting thought when you think about all the things that High Fae can smell.
Smelly. They're just a very smelly race. They have a lot of,
Yep, yep.
like, I think sight is not really like, I don't, like scent hounds kind of
Yeah,
thing where like almost everything is
I was thinking
smell.
of hounds too, yeah.
Yeah, well, I have a scent hound, and I kid you not, she will, like, I'm showing her something and she has to smell it to figure out what it
Yeah,
is. So yeah.
that's so cute. Those are in fact all the notes I have. So, shall we
Oh,
get to
okay.
our discussion? Let's go.
Y- Yes. Okay. We already talked about how terrifying the Weaver is. I don't know if we need to go into that more.
At length.
Um, we can just get right into what in the actual heck was Rhysand doing? And I remember, so like I know more context now. Regardless, this is maybe the one thing that I never forgive him for. I never get over it. I hate it so much.
That's fair.
I think it's his
Sorry, I am
I
eating.
honestly, it's fine. I think I would feel less like upset about it if he wasn't so calm and just like, hey, like if I went through this like tragic, awful thing that essentially this guy like he didn't force her, but like kind
He
of
did ask her
into
if she
doing.
wanted to do it. He did not, he tricked her.
There we go. Yes, he tricked her without giving her context. And then I come back, regardless of how attractive or how much I like this man, if I just went through that and he's just like, hey, I would have hit him so hard. I would have broken his nose. The fact that she didn't break his nose shows so much restraint.
Farah does have a lot of restraint. I will give her that.
More than I would ever have in my life. I would
Mm-hmm.
be uncontrollably livid at him. I would be like, don't talk to me for so long, and if it is, it's so I can hit you.
Yeah. No, I
And then
like just the fact that he's just like lounging in a tree. Like he took he took a nap.
yeah,
He
just
was just like
chilling.
casual. Yeah.
She's like, I could have died, and he's like, I don't care if it's supposed to be like this, like sign of trust and like, oh, I know you could do it. I don't care. I don't care that you thought it was a sign of trust. I had the worst experience of my life. That would terrify me more than that stupid Midgard worm.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
What
I
do
would
you mean
be
you're so
like,
chill?
I need hugs and praise now.
No, don't give me any of that. You have to experience something just as awful. You go to the Weaver. You go talk to her.
Can we
No
talk
hugs.
again about how, no spoilers, but let's talk about the fact that Reese's mom was friends with the Weaver?
His mom, honestly, his mom sounds incredible. Just like casually dropped her 8-year-old off at this war camp and was like, I'll be here if you need me. Honestly, maybe that's where Reese got it from. He's just like, that's how we do it. It's
That's
fine.
definitely where he got it from.
It's like, it's totally fine. It's just how it works.
So, yeah,
No big deal.
she's like, "Oh, this beautiful, precious thing that's yours. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it at this monster's house that I'm friends with." Honestly, from what we know of Feyre and her interactions with the Suriel and the Bone Carver,
Mm-hmm.
I think she might be kind of like Reese's mom. Like, you know that if she needed the Suriel to do something for her, she would just have to lay a little cloak out, and the Suriel would be like, "Yes, hello, friend. What do you need?" Meanwhile,
What do you feel?
everyone else's bowels are watery, and Farrah's just like, "Can you do this thing for me, bestie?"
You're like, hey, bestie, how's it going? And he's like, I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah,
What's the gossip?
right?
What's going on? No, if you are someone who has not ever looked up pictures of the cereal, I beg you to look up the ones of the cereal drinking tea
Yeah, those are my
because they love to
favorite.
spill the tea. It's my favorite. It's actually the only depiction that I really like because the rest of them are very scary.
Yeah,
So, if you have not done that, yeah, I am a little bit. No, I just this whole section, just like clearly, I skip over it every time I read it. I hate it deeply, and I hate his like very cavalier attitude about her. Like very clearly, I just, regardless of what, who and what he is, I will not ever forgive him. Section,
that's
I
fair.
hate it so much,
That's fair.
and I think he
He should not
deserves
be
more
forgiven.
crap
He does.
about it because I feel like they don't really address it again. It's just kind of, I mean, they do, but not to the degree that they should.
Not
Like,
really. No, I mean they get back, and Cassian's like, "Did you kill her?" And like,
yeah, so
Amren's like,
casual.
"Brutal but effective." Like, what?
Yeah, I'm like, I would just be sitting there looking at them, and I would be like, I'm going to burn this place to the ground
Yeah.
if this doesn't come off of me in the next 2 seconds. Do it.
Oh goodness. So
Ugh.
fun.
The fact that she
So
didn't set him on
fun.
fire shows incredible restraint.
Honestly, she just doesn't have enough control of her powers yet. That is the only reason.
That is fair. That is fair. Anyhow, sorry
Okay.
about my rant, but
That
I
is
hate it.
okay. That is okay. All right,
Mad
let's
about it.
see. Um let's talk about Nesta.
Oh, Nesta.
Oh, Nesta. So Nesta gets a lot of hate and a lot of love on the internet. The internet is extremely divided on her. Some people never forgive her. Some people really find her story, which we won't give away. No spoilers of that context. Some people find her
Mm-hmm.
story extremely empowering and
Mm-hmm.
inspiring, and I agree. I think it's empowering and inspiring. She pisses me off in this section. It makes me so mad.
I think what people of the internet don't understand maybe about Nesta is she's not supposed to be likable.
Yeah.
Like, she's not supposed to be likable. She is not written as a likable character. She's not supposed to be warm and fuzzy, and like she is supposed to be cold and
Mhm.
distant
A
and
predator.
this like other. She is supposed to
Mhm.
be other, basically. And even like knowing her journey and understanding her journey and what she goes through and how they can relate to all of those things. Just because she may or may not have, not gonna give it away, moved forward from that does not forgive or explain away her previous behavior. You
It
can
does
move
not.
forward, and people in her life can choose to forgive her. That's their prerogative. I
Mhm.
also would understand if the people in her life chose not to,
Yes.
on both
And so would
cases. That
she.
is, yeah, like and she wouldn't forgive them. If
Yeah.
anyone treated her even close to how she treated other people, she would have killed them. actually,
Yeah.
I think.
And
But
and she is very aware of that fact. So like
she
all
is.
all problems with Nesta aside, like yeah, it's just a really complex situation that can be reduced to what it has. If it's reduced to what it has been, it's very easy to just pick a side and stick with it. But like right now we're in the her and Feyre haven't really they had a moment where they bonded before she left to save Tamlin,
Hmm.
but it wasn't enough. Like Nesta for some reason doesn't seem to actually trust Feyre despite the fact that Feyre kept her alive for 4 years, 8 years, something, whatever it was.
Like 8, yeah. It was a long time.
It was a long time. So like
Yeah.
that is what pisses me off and I'm really happy that Cassian pointed it out. And like Rhysand is also he actually
Oh.
does say to Feyre, he's like, I it was hard for me to get through that dinner because your sisters are horrible. Yes, we owe them gratitude for letting us use their house and whatever, but I'm not going to forgive them for at least for a really long time.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't think you should have to. Like, as someone, so I think people that were directly involved, it's a little bit easier, especially with its family and like
Mhm.
elements. And like, clearly, family was very important to Feyre, even in the
Yes.
first books, even though it frustrated the heck out of me. Family is important to her.
Yeah.
That is a core thing for her. But as someone who is like a friend to someone like that, I don't know if I would ever forgive their family. I don't think I could. Like,
Yeah.
I could be around and I could be happy with you. I would not forgive them for their lack of empathy at all, and
Yeah.
their selfishness is just
It's
like their
it's
lack of empathy and
beyond.
selfishness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then not even when they're like told multiple times by multiple people that they should be grateful, and they're like, yeah, but she was gonna do it either way.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
why should
like,
we be
yeah, but
grateful?
why? Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's like
like
so it makes me so mad. Again, I just want to slap her stupid face right now. That's where I'm at right now.
I think we've all, maybe not all, but I've definitely met like entitled, bratty people like this that you just look at and you're like, even in the like you cannot live in reality regardless of your circumstances. And it is the most irritating thing ever. It's
Yeah,
awful.
it's the worst.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Do you want to switch to something else really fun?
Please, let's go fun.
Let's do a deep dive on the group dynamics. The group
Okay.
being the Bat Boys and the Archerons.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't know how much of the specifics you remember, and I did kind of gloss over it in the chapter summary, so let me do a quick recap. They're all sitting at the table. Rhysand
Hmm.
and Feyre are having their own little thing where, like, Rhysand is, like, observing. He is observing Feyre, trying to make sure she's okay, trying to
Hmm.
hold his own stuff in because he's clearly very upset at her family and is upset on her behalf, not on his own
Yeah.
behalf, you know. And but he's trying to play the High Lord and be whatever. Feyre's trying to be the peacekeeper, as she always is. She's like, let's just start over, let's just forget about it, let's just move on. While this is all happening, Nesta's being Nesta, and Cassian is laser focus on her. Laser focus. Like, is he going to like pick her up and throw her across the room or pick her up and kiss her? No one knows. I don't think he knows.
I don't think
He
he's made
is
up his mind yet.
he is on it. And Nesta, very cat-like, is just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
Like Nesta's
she
not even
recognized
looking at
it.
him.
Could care less. No, Cassian found the predator in the room, found the biggest threat as any general would, and was like, "It's you,
Yeah.
100% you." I'm just gonna
And Nesta's
lock
like, yeah,
in.
whatever.
Yeah, and he's like, "I hate you, but also you're really hot," because she is. She's gorgeous.
You know that that there's this like in New Girl, there's this it's a Nick Miller quote where I don't know
Okay.
who he says it. I have no idea who he says it to, but it's really popularly used in GIFs. But he's like, "Stop being so mean to me, or I'm gonna fall in love with you."
100% Cassian and Nick Miller are not that far off.
Except that Cassian is extremely fit. That's maybe the major difference.
If you combine Schmidt and Nick Miller into a
Honestly,
person, I think it would be
yes,
Cassian.
I agree.
Yeah.
A little bit of Coach.
Yes. Yeah, throw him in there a little bit.
Yeah, just a
Sprinkle him on
little.
in there.
And then while that's happening, okay,
Then just Elaine and Az.
Elaine and Asriel, right? And like now we know because Feyre is very interested in the drama that Asriel clearly has deep, possibly unrequited, we're not sure, feelings for more.
Mm-hmm.
But he has left those shadows behind in Valaris, and he is making small talk with beautiful Elaine. And Feyre is noticing all of this.
I truly, what I think is happening is like Feyre's just like dealing with her crazy. It's like I recently from Christmas. It's like the National Lampoon's Christmas movie where
Yeah.
like dinner, everyone's fighting and falling apart. So like Nesta's being aggressive. Feyre's like not Feyre. Nesta's being aggressive. Feyre's like trying to keep the peace. Like I said,
Mhm.
like Reese is trying to keep it together. Cassian's just like aggressively eating at her face. Elaine and Ass are just at the end, and they're just like, potatoes are great.
Yes.
How's your day?
Yeah, except like they're like potatoes are great, and then Elaine like goes to reach for the salt, and Azriel's like, "Here you go," anticipating the need. Like that's what it is. And Elaine's
Yes.
like, "I'm engaged." In her mind, she's like, "Elaine, you're engaged. Elaine, you're engaged. Elaine, you're engaged."
Yeah. Yeah, except for the 6 foot tall, dark, and handsome, over 6 foot. They're very tall. I can't remember
They're
how tall they are.
very
They're
tall.
like I think six
Azriel's
eight
like
is the short.
6'9".
I think so. Well, because I think Asriel's the tallest. I think
Oh, that's
Cassian's the
right.
broadest. Right? So I think Reese is like in theory the average between the two of them. So I think Cassian's very like broad and bulky. Well, so we don't know this yet, but Az has the biggest wingspan, so I'm assuming if he has to have the biggest
He must
wings,
be the tallest.
this is a very literal thing. His wings are the biggest. Has to be. There's some innuendo that comes up with that later. In
I
case
don't
you're
think we
curious.
really have to explain it. I think they got it with the eyebrows. Are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm very close to this shelf, and if I lean back too far, it like knocks it over. Anywho,
It's
I am
fine.
fine. It just added to the series of things falling around me. It's
This
fine.
is
There's
true. This
multiple
is true.
at this point. Um, but yes, yeah. So I do love their just a chaotic family dinner, really, which
Yeah,
we all love. We love
we
to
do.
watch it. They're their own reality TV show, to be honest.
They are. So, this is like, sort of spoilery, but I'll just put it out there because this was my first time read feelings. I don't care about Grayson. I don't know what's going to happen about it. I ship Elaine and Azriel from this moment on. That may or may not stay true as we go on to books and meet other characters. However, in this moment, I was like in it. I was like, I don't care about Grayson. He's a stupid mortal whose father hates Faye, Elaine, and Asriel.
I was not there, I will say.
Immediately.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I cared enough about Asriel or Elaine to have any thoughts
I am Feyre.
about them. Um, that's fair. I don't know. I think I was more interested in like the whole like I think I remember being like, "Oh, I hope he moves on." I don't know. I liked as I really hate Elaine with a passion, and
That's fine.
I think
I don't
Asriel
hate her as
deserves
much as
better.
you do.
I
Again,
I
speaking of context of right now, I don't hate her as much as you do.
even right
And
now, no.
no, I know. I don't hate her as much as you do
Yeah.
right now though. And I
Same.
and again, like first time I was reading this book, I remember this book so viscerally because it was just really this is my favorite of the series. Um
It's so good. Yeah.
And I was immediately like, well, obviously Nesta and Cassian are something's happening there. We don't know whether it's enemies or something else is gonna happen, but they
Mhm.
are going to be against each other in some way soon. That's all I know.
Yes. Mhm.
But with Azriel and Elaine, I immediately like Farah. Well, again, we are Feyre while we're reading this, but Feyre was
Yeah.
like, and Azriel shifted, and he was trying to put her at ease, and I was like, oh yeah, tell me more. What else is happening? Tell me more.
So
This
I
is
wish
when I
that was my
started to like him.
experience. That's fair. So my first, so actually you were around for my second reread, you were not around for my first. So I read these the first time, whatever. The first time I honestly was so blindly angry at Nesta. Did not see
Fair,
anything else that was happening
fair.
anywhere else. The second reread, I distinctly remember this because I was reading it and I got to like this part of the book. And I think it was when she like hysterically started crying when she met her. I think I remember it because we worked in the same office and I like really rolled my chair to your desk because you were like a cubicle in front of me. And I like come up beside you and you're like, hi, Colleen. And like, this is not a work related thing, I'm aware, but we get to socialize at work. It's fine. I look at you and I go, I hate Elaine so
I
much. And you
remember
go,
that.
oh. Because I was like deeply, because like this is after reading all of the books. So
Hmm.
we have not had an Elaine centric novel. I don't know if we ever will get one, but that is not a thing that has happened yet. So she has no redeeming qualities at this point in the series. So I remember just rolling up and being like, I was so upset with Nesta that I never really looked at Elaine, which I think is the
Hmm.
point. I think
Yeah,
that's why Nesta does what she does.
I think
But
so
I'm like
too.
looking at Elaine and I'm like, I deeply dislike her. I remember
Colleen, all she's doing is trying to ease the tension. She's asking questions about the Fae. She's engaging Azriel. She's trying to get Nesta to agree to help everyone out. She's doing a good thing right now.
in this section,
Yeah.
she is, and I appreciate that, but she's only doing it because it'll make them go away.
No. No, that's not right. She's doing it because she knows it's the right thing to do.
I deeply incorrect. Deeply incorrect. She is doing it because she wants to keep the peace and get them out of her house as fast as
No, no,
possible.
no, no. She's happy. When Feyre says that they'll stay the night, Elaine breaks into a big, genuine, happy smile. She's happy.
I think she likes Feyre.
Yes. And
I think,
Asriel.
and she's social and loves hosting. But I don't know. This section I don't I don't know. I
I
think this
think you're
truly was the
being a
section.
little harsh. I think you're being a little harsh on Elaine.
I just don't like useless characters, and
I
she
will
just
say that
feels a little
neither of us
useless.
are a middle child. So we don't
I
know
am
what
an
that
oldest daughter.
dynamic. I am a
That is fair.
youngest. So I don't think we quite know what that dynamic. And she's closer to Nesta's age. So it's very normal for a middle child to pick one and follow. And she clearly picked Nesta and followed. But she's nice and she admits her faults, unlike Nesta.
I think Elaine has a better potential for growth
Yes.
if she thought she needed it. She just doesn't think she does.
No, she doesn't think she does. And no one tells her that she does.
Someone should.
No one is like, "Hey sis, you got some growth ahead of you. Let's go."
Well, I think they do eventually, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anywho,
What else would you like to talk about?
I mean, I guess we have like some setup stuff, just like the mortal queens and meeting them. Also,
Mhm.
like this, like we had no idea. I remember being like queens. Like there was no
Yes.
mention of a queen in the first book
There was none.
that I remember.
I think there was actually because I remember talking about it in season 1.
Was there? Okay,
It's
I did not remember that
very
there was.
brief, extremely brief
Fair enough, they were mentioned.
when they're talking about
But
the wall. And Feyre does mention that 6 mortal queens set up a treaty with the Fae. But it is very brief and it's like a throwaway line.
that's fair, but it's mentioned at least. I remember like being like, this was not mentioned. This seems like a very like clearly they're not that involved in her life.
Yes.
if they're just like,
Well,
it's
so
a
they
thing.
live on the continent, so they don't have any sort of presence in like the human lands below Prythian.
Gotcha.
They're
Okay.
off on a continent far away, and they don't
They're
care
far
about
away.
what happens. Yeah.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Fair. Okay. Yeah.
so we have that.
Hopefully Feyre doesn't die
Hopefully she doesn't
with
die.
the adder.
I hope that she doesn't die with the adder. I hope that she actually unalives him, and I hope that she goes out
Agreed.
drinking with the inner circle because that'll be fun.
Go party with him.
Yeah.
Yes. I think so too. That would be fun.
Yeah, I want more Valaris. I want more about the city because all we've really seen, we had the one broad sweeping tour, but we've really still
Yeah.
only seen the townhouse and the House of Wind. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed. I want to see her have a little fun. She deserves it.
she does deserve it. Hopefully we can get into some less heavy. I know there's a lot more heavy material to come, but it does get lighter. It gets brighter as we go
It does for a little bit. Yes. Yeah.
for a little bit. So
A little bit of breath of fresh air in the middle. So.
all right, everyone. Well, if you're on the West Coast, if you're in California, stay safe
Oh gosh.
and
Yes, please.
stay safe and keep in touch with your loved ones. If you are in the Midwest going out to the East Coast, and are facing all of this winter weather, stay warm, stay safe on the roads out there. Everyone be safe. We love you all.
We love all of you. Please be safe.
Zoom with your friends for happy hour instead of going out.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. And we will catch you next time where we'll find out what happens with the adder. Hopefully get a little bit more Nesta Cassian interactions because those are so fun.
I do love them deeply. They're fun. Yeah.
And hopefully whatever's building between I hope we get a only one bed trope moment in the next I don't know when it happens, but I hope it's next time.
Me too. I love a one bed. I got very excited.
Yeah, I know.
So.
I said one bed and you were like and I was like, nope.
I was like, but there's one. It's fine. I knew it wasn't this section, but I just remember, just anytime it's mentioned, I'm like, it's only one bed.
Only one bed. Oh no.
Oh, what are we gonna do?
Oh golly jeez.
This wasn't planned at all.
Neither one of us planned this. Neither one of us was hoping for this secretly.
Not at all. Totally fine.
Okay. Well, see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.